You know, people have this funny picture in their heads. They imagine the end of the universe as something dramatic, something cinematic. A big crunch, a spectacular fireball, lights out all at once across the whole cosmos, like flipping a switch. And I want to tell you right now, that picture is wrong. It is not just slightly wrong. It is wrong in a way that reveals something so much more disturbing, so much more interesting, that once you see it clearly, you cannot unsee it. The universe does not owe you a warning signal. That is the first thing you have to accept. Here is the raw physical situation. Information, any information, about anything happening anywhere in this universe cannot travel faster than light. That is not a technological limitation. That is not something we will engineer our way around someday. It is a hard structural feature of spacetime itself, baked into the geometry of everything. It means that if something catastrophic happened at a tremendous distance, some civilizational collapse of the cosmos itself, that news could be traveling toward us right now, and we would have absolutely zero knowledge of it. We would be sitting here, measuring temperatures, calculating orbits, feeling perfectly content, while the announcement of our own destruction is still in transit somewhere out there in the dark. Now let me give you an analogy that I think really makes this concrete. Because the numbers involved in cosmology are so enormous they lose their grip on the intuition. Imagine a city, a brilliant, bustling city full of light and noise and all the ordinary business of living. This city draws its power from a single colossal generator, but the generator is not nearby. It is thousands of miles away, connected through an impossibly long network of cables and transmission lines, stretching across the continent. Now suppose that yesterday, quietly, completely, that central generator was destroyed, gone. The source of all that energy simply ceased to exist. The city does not know this yet. Because the wires are so long, the final surge of electricity is still traveling down the lines. It has not arrived yet, and so the streetlights are still glowing. The machines are still humming. People are still cooking dinner and watching television and going about their lives with that comfortable assumption that tomorrow will simply be more of the same. The city is, in every observable sense, alive. But it is running on borrowed power from a source that no longer exists. It is the light from a dead star. Except in this version, you are the people in the city, and you do not even know to look worried. The space-time continuum works precisely like that severed power grid. Causality is the transmission system, and the speed of light is the absolute speed limit of the news. You could be completely surrounded, enveloped, embedded in a dead universe, and you would feel the warmth of the past radiating around you and call it the present. Now let me take you through the specific physical machinery that makes this not just a philosophical spookiness, but a concrete scientific concern. Consider the Higgs field. The Higgs field permeates all of space. Every cubic centimeter of the universe you have ever touched or seen or thought about is saturated with this field, and it is the Higgs field that gives particles their mass. Without it, electrons and quarks would be massless, racing around at the speed of light, and chemistry, atoms, molecules, biology, none of that would be possible. The Higgs field is, in a real and not metaphorical sense, the scaffolding of matter itself. But here is the thing that should make you sit very still for a moment. The current measured value of the Higgs field, the one we have confirmed through extraordinary precision measurements at particle accelerators, places us in what physicists call a metastable state. The field is settled, but it is not settled at its lowest possible energy. It is like a ball sitting in a small depression partway down a hill. It is stable enough, it is not rolling right now, but it is not at the bottom of the hill. There is a deeper valley elsewhere, a true ground state that our universe has never reached, and quantum mechanics, that infuriatingly probabilistic engine underneath all of reality, means that the field does not have to roll down the hill the classical way. It can tunnel through the barrier. Somewhere in the observable universe, or beyond it, this might have already happened. A single point in space could have already spontaneously decayed to the true vacuum state, and from that point, a bubble would form, expanding outward in all directions at the speed of light. Inside that bubble, the fundamental constants are different. The electron has a different mass. The rules of chemistry are rewritten. Atoms cannot form the way they do here. Stars cannot burn. Life is structurally impossible. And here is the part that makes this genuinely terrifying in a physics sense. That bubble wall moves at the speed of light. You cannot detect it in advance. No instrument, no telescope, no cleverly engineered early warning system can give you any advance notice, because any signal from the approaching wall would be traveling at the same speed as the wall itself. It is the executioner who is also the messenger. The first thing you would experience, if you could call it experience, would be the end. So the question is not abstract. The question is whether, somewhere in the vast expanse of space we cannot see, beyond the cosmological horizon, or perhaps within it, a vacuum decay event has already occurred. And the honest physical answer is that we have no way of knowing. None. The universe could have already ended in this way, and the bubble could be currently in transit, and every measurement we make, every equation we solve, every observation we cherish is just the ordinary business of a city whose generator has already been destroyed. Now let us think carefully about what it means to look at the night sky. When you look at a star, you are not seeing the star. You are seeing a photograph of the star, taken by light that left it years or decades or millennia ago. When you look at the Andromeda Galaxy, that light has been traveling for approximately 2.5 million years. When we observe the most distant galaxies through our best telescopes, the light we are catching has been traveling for billions of years. We are not seeing the universe as it is. We are seeing the universe as it was, across an enormous and uneven spread of past moments, all arriving at our eyes simultaneously and giving us the illusion of a coherent, present scene. The observable universe is a kind of museum of the past, and like any museum, it tells you what things looked like, not necessarily what they look like now. The great structures we see, the galaxy clusters, the cosmic filaments, the grand arrangement of matter on the largest scales, these things we observe were arranged as they were billions of years ago. Those galaxies may have since merged, collapsed, been torn apart by their own dynamics, or seen their stars burned down to cold cinders. We are looking at a graveyard and calling it a living neighborhood because the photographs are very pretty. This is not a failure of our instruments. It is not something better technology can fix. It is a direct, inescapable consequence of the fact that light has a finite speed, and the universe is inconceivably large. There is no version of physics in which you can see the universe as it currently is in any globally simultaneous sense, because simultaneity itself is relative. The present moment across cosmological distances is not a well-defined thing. It is a human comfort, not a physical reality. And then there is the cold arithmetic. Even setting aside sudden catastrophes, even forgetting the vacuum bubble and the expanding wall of rewritten physics, there is the long, patient, grinding mathematics of entropy. The second law of thermodynamics is one of the most robust facts in all of physics. It says that in any closed system, the total disorder, the entropy, will increase over time. Usable energy degrades into unusable thermal noise. Gradients flatten out. Hot things cool. Cool things do not spontaneously become hot. The universe, taken as a whole, is a closed system, and it has been spending its initial endowment of low entropy since the moment of the Big Bang. Stars are engines. They burn because there is a gradient between the dense, hot nuclear fuel at their cores and the cold darkness of space surrounding them. That gradient drives the flow of energy, and in flowing, the energy does work, makes light, warms planets, makes biology possible. But every second a star burns, it is consuming a finite resource. The universe was born with a fixed account of usable energy, and it has been drawing it down ever since. The question that thermodynamics forces you to confront is this: have we already crossed the point of no return, in some deep cosmic accounting sense, where the total available work that can still be extracted is essentially zero, and we are simply living in the last flickering moments of friction before equilibrium claims everything? The heat death is not a sharp boundary. It is a gradual cessation. The stars dim one by one. The black holes slowly evaporate over time, scales that dwarf the current age of the universe. And eventually, the last bit of structure dissolves into a flat, cold, maximally disordered background where nothing happens anymore, because nothing can happen anymore, because no gradient remains to drive any process whatsoever. Life, in this picture, is a local eddy in a stream that is smoothing itself out. We are a temporary, astonishing reduction of entropy in a tiny corner of a cosmos that is relentlessly, patiently trending toward the absolute silence of equilibrium, and that trend may already be irreversibly underway. Here is what I find genuinely exciting about all of this, and I want you to hear this as something real, not as a comforting thing tacked onto the end. The fact that we might be living in a delayed echo of a dead cosmos, the fact that a bubble of true vacuum might be in transit toward us, the fact that the thermodynamic engine might be irrevocably running down, these things are not reasons for despair. They are the most thrilling advertisement for raw curiosity I can imagine. Because look at what we are doing here. We are creatures made of atoms, sitting on a rock in space, and we have figured out the shape of the Higgs potential. We have measured the rate at which entropy is generated in stellar fusion. We have calculated what happens inside a bubble of false vacuum decay. We have worked out, from first principles and careful observation, that the universe might already be dead, and we would not know it yet. That is extraordinary. Not extraordinary in a vague, hand-waving way. It is extraordinary in a very specific, concrete, almost ridiculous way. The mathematics does not care whether we are comfortable. The physics does not arrange itself for our convenience. And yet here we are, having figured out enough of the rules of the game to understand our own precarious, beautiful, possibly posthumous situation. The wonder is not in the fairy tale of a stable, eternal cosmos built for our inspection. The wonder is in the honest, uncomfortable, magnificent truth that the cosmos operates on principles that are indifferent and precise and completely scrutable to a patient, honest mind. We do not need the universe to be permanent to find the present moment extraordinary. We just need it to be real, and to keep doing what we do, which is look at it very carefully and try to figure out what is actually going on.